Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how I replaced the wear ring on my SeaDoo GTX with the Solas SR HS156-001 stainless steel wear ring. Now, I had replaced the wear ring on mine previously, but I wasn't getting the performance I wanted, and this should be the last wear ring I ever have to install on this SeaDoo. First things first, the tools that are going to be needed are a 17mm deep well socket, a 13 and 10mm socket, appropriate ratchets for each socket, approximately 15 inches of extensions, a flathead screwdriver, a 10mm wrench, some Loctite, a 5mm Allen key, a 12mm hex socket, and a WR011 impeller removal tool. Not pictured is a rubber mallet and a block of wood for hammering in the new wear ring. Let's get started by placing the new wear ring in the freezer. This will help it contract, so it'll be easier to slide in place on the jet pump housing. On the SeaDoo, I'm going to start by removing the OPAS hose and removing the bracket that connects to the jet pump nozzle. I'm going to do this with a 13mm socket. Next, I'm going to remove the steering connector and the reverse gate cable. This is with a 10mm socket and a 10mm wrench. To keep from losing the nut, bolt, and washers, just reattach them all once you disconnect it from the nozzle. And I'm going to do the same thing over here with the reverse cable. Using the 17mm deep well socket and extensions, take out all 4 of the nuts holding the jet pump in place. Don't worry about taking off the washers at this time because they'll fall off on their own once you take the jet pump off. Carefully slide the jet pump out, making sure it's clear of all cables and brackets. Take off the impeller boot and use a 13mm socket to take out all 4 bolts holding the venturi nozzle on. Now that the venturi's off, I'm going to take the jet pump housing inside for the rest of the work. Use a 5mm Allen key to remove the bolts holding on the impeller cover. Then use a flathead screwdriver while gently rocking the impeller cover back and forth to pry off the cover. This step is optional if you're just replacing the wear ring, but it is nice to be able to inspect the jet pump bearings and the grease. I just replaced the grease about a month ago when I replaced my original plastic housing with this aluminum housing, so I'm not going to replace it at this time. You should also inspect your neoprene jet pump seal. Alright, next step is to place the jet pump in the freezer for approximately 15 to 30 minutes, and you'll see once it comes out of the freezer, the old wear ring slides right out. Now, I made the mistake of attempting to put the new wear ring in immediately without waiting on the housing to warm up, and as you can see, it was quite difficult using a rubber mallet and a block of wood to hammer it in place. This next step is also optional if you are not replacing the impeller, but it will allow you to check the seal that is on the jet pump right behind the impeller. So using the 12mm Allen socket and the WR011 impeller removal tool, you'll unscrew the impeller, and I will be replacing my impeller with a Solas SRCD1119 because the clearance on mine after replacing the wear ring is 0.85mm and the spec is 0.35. If you have it, use a little bit of anti-seize on the front side of the impeller shaft and screw the impeller shaft back onto the impeller. Next, clean up around the impeller cover and install the impeller cover with the 3 screws using Loctite on each of the screws. Put the neoprene seal back on and head back outside to reinstall the jet pump. Inspect the venturi for the baler O-rings and apply some Loctite to all of the bolts for the venturi and install them with a 13mm socket. Reinstall the impeller drive shaft boot. Add some Loctite to each of the 4 bolts and reinstall the jet pump. Make sure you don't get the jet pump caught on either of the cables or on the Opus bracket on the bottom. Next takes a little bit of hand gymnastics to get the washers and the nut on each of the bolts. Hand tighten each nut in an X pattern, then torque each one down to 23 foot-pounds. Reinstall the 10mm bolts and nuts for the reverse bucket and for the steering cable. Apply some Loctite 2 and reinstall the 13mm bolt for the Opus bracket, and reinstall the Opus hose and tighten the clamp down. And that's it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever a new video drops. Also, comment down below with any questions you have, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible.